My name is Sage Morrison. I'm 34 years old, and I'm an engineer. 6 years ago, I invented something that could change the world. A water filtration device so efficient, so revolutionary, that it could provide clean drinking water to millions of people in developing countries for less than $1 per household. My best friend stole it. He patented it under his name, and he left me homeless. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me take you back to the beginning, to the moment when everything seemed possible, when partnership meant trust, and when I believed that brilliant ideas were enough to change the world. I graduated from MIT with a degree in mechanical engineering and a minor in materials science. Top of my class, full scholarship. The kind of student professors remember, the kind they write recommendation letters for without hesitation. I wasn't just smart, I was obsessed. While my classmates were at parties, I was in the lab. While they were sleeping, I was sketching designs in notebooks, dreaming about solutions to problems most people didn't even know existed. One of those problems was water. 11% of the world's population doesn't have access to clean drinking water. That's 785 million people. Every year, 500,000 children under 5 die from diarrhea caused by contaminated water. I read those statistics in my sophomore year, and I couldn't let them go. There had to be a better way, a cheaper way, a way to filter water that didn't require expensive infrastructure or constant maintenance. That's when I met Trevor Hayes. We were in the same advanced materials seminar. He sat 2 rows behind me, always arriving 5 minutes late with a coffee in hand and an easy smile that made the professor forgive him immediately. Trevor wasn't the smartest person in the room. He knew it, and he didn't care. What he had was something different. Charisma, vision, the ability to make people believe in things. After class one day, he approached me. I was sketching early concepts for a membrane filtration system in my notebook. "Is that a water filter?" he asked, looking over my shoulder. "Trying to be," I said. "The current technology is too expensive for developing regions. I'm working on a polymer membrane that could reduce costs by 70%. He sat down next to me, genuinely interested. "That's incredible. Have you thought about commercializing it?" I laughed. "I'm a student. I'm just trying to pass thermodynamics." "I'm serious. Ideas like this, they don't just deserve an A on a project. They deserve to exist in the real world. They deserve to save lives." That was Trevor. He saw possibility where I saw problems. He saw markets where I saw molecules. And over the next few months, as we became friends, I started to see it too. We'd meet at coffee shops, and I'd explain the technical challenges while he mapped out business plans on napkins. We'd stay up until 3 in the morning in the engineering lab, me building prototypes while he researched investors and manufacturing partners. We complemented each other perfectly. I was the brain. He was the vision. By our senior year, we decided to start a company together after graduation. "We're going to change the world, Sage," Trevor said the night we signed our first lease on a tiny lab space in Cambridge. "You and me, partners." Partners, I believed him completely. The company was called Aquapure Solutions. The name was Trevor's idea. The technology was mine. We split the work exactly the way we'd always planned. I would focus on engineering and product development. He would handle business operations, investor relations, patents, and legal paperwork. "You're too valuable to waste time on administrative stuff," he told me during one of our early strategy sessions. "Your brain needs to be focused on perfecting the technology. Let me handle the boring parts." It made sense. I hated paperwork. I was terrible at networking. I could explain the science of nanofiltration to another engineer, but I froze in rooms full of investors talking about market penetration and ROI. Trevor thrived in those rooms. He was charming, confident, polished. He knew how to sell the vision. He knew how to make people open their checkbooks. So I let him handle it, all of it. That was my first mistake. In the beginning, we worked side by side in that cramped lab. Me at the workbench building prototypes, him at a desk in the corner making calls to potential investors. We ate pizza for dinner most nights because we couldn't afford anything else. We slept on an air mattress in the corner when we were too tired to drive home. We were building something together. Or so I thought. The first prototype failed. The membrane degraded too quickly under pressure. I spent 3 months reformulating the polymer blend, testing different molecular weights, adjusting cross-linking ratios. Trevor was there for all of it, asking questions, taking notes, learning the technology alongside me. The second prototype worked better, but was too expensive to manufacture at scale. Back to the drawing board. The third prototype showed promise. Trevor brought in our first investor meeting. 5 people in suits sat around our tiny lab table while I demonstrated the filtration system. I explained the science, how the membrane's pore size allowed water molecules through while blocking contaminants, how the pressure differentials worked, how we'd reduced manufacturing costs by using readily available materials. They asked technical questions. I answered them. They looked impressed. Then they looked at Trevor. What's the business model? Trevor stood up, suddenly the star of the show. He had a presentation ready, polished slides showing market analysis, revenue projections, scaling strategies. He talked about millions of people, billions of dollars, global impact. They loved him. When they left, one of them shook Trevor's hand. "You've built something remarkable here, Mr. Hayes. We'd like to invest." "Not you both. Not you and Ms. Morrison. Just you." I noticed it. I felt it. But I told myself it didn't matter. The investment was for the company, for both of us. Trevor was just better at playing the game. "That was amazing," Trevor said after they left, pulling me into a hug. "We did it, Sage. We're funded." "We, partners." I believed him. The money came through. $250,000 for 15% equity. Trevor handled all the paperwork. I signed where he told me to sign, barely reading the documents because I was too focused on getting back to the lab. "You trust me, right?" he asked, watching me scribble my signature. "Of course I trust you. You're my best friend." He smiled. "Then don't worry about this legal stuff. I've got it covered. You just keep doing what you do best, changing the world." I went back to my prototypes. He went back to his desk. And somewhere in those documents, I didn't read carefully enough. Somewhere in the paperwork I trusted him to handle. The first threads of my erasure were already being woven. I just didn't know it yet. Over the next year, I gave up everything to perfect AquaPure. I stopped taking freelance engineering contracts because I needed every hour for the invention. I stopped going out with friends because I couldn't afford it and didn't have time anyway. I watched my savings account drain. $67,000 I'd saved from scholarships and part-time work. All of it poured into materials, equipment, lab fees. Trevor kept saying the same thing. "Once we launch, it'll all be worth it. Once we get the patent secured and sign a major licensing deal, we'll both be set for life." The patent, he talked about it constantly. "I'm working with a patent attorney," he told me. "Getting the provisional application ready. We need to file before anyone else develops similar technology." "Can I see the application?" I asked. "It's still in draft form. I'll send it to you once it's finalized." He never did. "Did we file the provisional yet?" I asked a few months later. "Yes, all taken care of. I'll send you the confirmation number." He never did. But I was too buried in the work to follow up. Prototype number 15 was showing real promise. I'd finally achieved the right balance of filtration efficiency, durability, and cost. This was it. This was the one that would work. I worked 18-hour days documenting everything in lab notebooks, every test, every measurement, every modification. I'd learned in engineering school that documentation was everything. If you didn't write it down, it didn't exist. So I wrote it all down. 14,000 hours of work, meticulously recorded across dozens of notebooks, each page dated and signed. I had no idea those notebooks would one day be the only thing standing between me and complete erasure. I had no idea that while I was building the future, Trevor was quietly stealing it. All I knew was that we were partners, 50-50, always. That's what he'd promised. And I believed him. Year 2 began with breakthrough and ended with my first real doubt. The filtration membrane I'd been developing finally achieved what I'd been chasing for months: 99.7% contaminant removal, with a lifespan of 5 years under continuous use. Manufacturing cost per unit, $12. That meant we could provide clean water to a family of 4 for less than $3 per year. I called Trevor at 2 in the morning when the test results came back. "It works," I said, my voice shaking. "Trevor, it actually works." "I knew you'd do it." I could hear the smile in his voice. "This is it, Sage. This is what's going to change everything." He wasn't wrong. Within a week, he'd scheduled meetings with 3 major water companies and 2 humanitarian organizations. Within a month, we had serious interest from investors willing to pour millions into scaling production. But scaling meant more work, more prototypes, more testing, more documentation. I stopped sleeping regular hours. I'd work until I literally couldn't keep my eyes open, collapse on the air mattress in the lab for 3 or 4 hours, then wake up and start again. I lost 15 pounds because I kept forgetting to eat. My hands developed calluses from assembling prototypes. I had chemical burns on my fingers from working with polymer solutions. My entire world narrowed to a single point: make Aquapure perfect. Trevor's world was expanding. I started noticing the changes around month 14. He showed up to the lab one morning driving a Tesla Model S Midnight Blue, pristine, the kind of car that cost more than I'd made in the past 2 years combined. "Nice car," I said, looking up from my workbench. "Early celebration," he said, grinning. "The investor meetings are going so well. I wanted something that looked the part." "How much did that cost?" "Don't worry about it. It's a business expense. Image matters in this world." I went back to my membrane samples. Image had never mattered to me. Results did. A few months later, Trevor mentioned he was moving out of his apartment, getting a place in Cambridge, closer to the lab, 2-bedroom, great view of the river. That sounds expensive. Consulting fees from all the investor meetings are covering it. Plus, we need a professional space to bring people. Can't keep having meetings in this lab. He wasn't wrong about that. Our lab was functional but cramped. Cluttered with equipment, prototypes in various stages of assembly, my notebooks stacked everywhere. It looked like what it was: a space where serious work happened, not a place designed to impress wealthy investors. "How much are the consulting fees?" I asked. "Nothing crazy, just standard rate for the work I'm putting in. Don't worry, it's all documented in the company finances." I nodded and returned to my work. I trusted him to handle the money side. That was our agreement. But the question nagged at me. I was working 18-hour days and living on ramen noodles while my savings evaporated. Trevor was buying Teslas and riverside condos. The math didn't quite add up. I pushed the thought away. He was doing his job. I was doing mine. Once we launched, we'd both benefit. That's what partnership meant, right? By year 3, I'd built 43 prototypes, each one documented in excruciating detail. Lab notebook number 7 alone contained 300 pages of test results, modifications, failure analyses, and breakthroughs. I dated every entry. I signed every page. I photographed every prototype from multiple angles. I saved every CAD file with timestamps. I kept copies of every email where I explained technical concepts to Trevor or to the engineers I'd brought in to help with specific aspects of the design. I wasn't being paranoid. I was being thorough. That's what good engineering required. Meanwhile, Trevor was becoming the face of Aquapure. He started getting invited to speak at conferences, tech industry events, water sustainability summits, entrepreneurship panels. I'd see the announcements and feel a strange mix of pride and discomfort. Trevor Hayes, founder and CEO of Aquapure Solutions, will discuss innovative approaches to global water access. Founder and CEO, not co-founder, not Trevor Hayes and Sage Morrison. Just Trevor. Shouldn't my name be on these? I asked him after he came back from a conference in San Francisco. The conference organizers just default to CEO for the billing, he said dismissively. Everyone there knows it's a team effort. I talked about you in my presentation. What did you say? That I have an incredible engineering team, making the technology possible. Team, not partner, not co-inventor. Trevor, I'm not just part of the team. I invented this. He sighed like I was being difficult. Sage, you know how this works. Investors want a single face, a single story. Steve Jobs didn't bring Wozniak to every presentation. Elon Musk gets the credit even though he has hundreds of engineers. That's just how business works. But I'm not hundreds of engineers. I'm your partner. 50-50, that's what you said. And you are, legally, financially, all of it. But publicly, we need a clear narrative. Once we launch and start making money, you can do all the interviews you want. But right now, we need to play the game. I hated that answer, but I didn't know enough about business to argue. Maybe he was right. Maybe this was just how things worked. So I swallowed my discomfort and went back to the lab. Year 4 brought our first major breakthrough in manufacturing scalability. I'd figured out how to produce the filtration membranes using injection molding instead of hand layering, which meant we could make 10,000 units a month instead of 100. Trevor was ecstatic. This is it. This is what we needed. I'm setting up meetings with manufacturers in China and India. We can start production within 6 months. He flew to Asia 3 times that year. Each time, he came back with photos of factories, contracts in negotiation, production timelines. I stayed in the lab, refining the design, making sure every detail was perfect. My savings account hit 0 around month 42. I'd spent every dollar I had developing Aquapure. I started taking on freelance engineering work at night to pay rent, which meant even less sleep, but I didn't have a choice. Trevor, meanwhile, moved into an even nicer condo. I saw photos on his Instagram, floor-to-ceiling windows, modern furniture, a kitchen that looked like something from a magazine. Business is picking up, he explained when I asked. Investor relations is a full-time job. I need a space where I can host dinners, build relationships. It's all part of the process. I was eating ramen in a studio apartment with a radiator that barely worked. He was hosting dinner parties in a luxury condo. But I told myself it didn't matter. Once we launched, once the money started flowing, we'd both be fine. That's what I kept telling myself. Year 5, prototype number 38 achieved something I'd been chasing since the beginning. The system could now filter seawater into drinkable water, not just clean freshwater sources. The applications expanded exponentially. Coastal communities, disaster relief, military applications. The market just got 10 times bigger. I called Trevor immediately. This changes everything, I said, barely able to contain my excitement. We can desalinate at a fraction of the cost of current technology. Sage, that's incredible. Absolutely incredible. I need you to write up the technical specifications. We have a major investor presentation next week, and this is exactly the kind of breakthrough they want to hear about. I spent 3 days writing a detailed technical report, 40 pages explaining the science, the engineering, the testing results, the manufacturing implications. I sent it to Trevor the night before his presentation. "Got it. This is perfect. You're a genius, you know that." The presentation went well. I know because Trevor sent me a photo afterward, him shaking hands with a man in an expensive suit, both of them smiling. The caption, "Just closed our Series A $5 million. Here we go." $5 million. We were funded for real now. This was actually happening. "When do I get to see the term sheet?" I asked. "I'll send it over once the lawyers finish the final paperwork." He never did. "What about the patent?" I asked during one of our weekly check-ins. "We need to file the full utility patent now that we've proven the technology works." "Already in process. My attorney is handling it." "Can I see the application? I want to make sure all the technical details are accurate." "It's in legal review right now. I'll send you a copy once it's finalized." He never did. But I was too exhausted to push. Year 5 had been brutal. I'd worked more hours than I could count. My notebooks were filled with designs, test results, modifications. I had calluses on my calluses. I'd sacrificed relationships, health, savings, everything. But we were so close to launch, so close to changing the world. I just needed to trust Trevor a little longer. Year 6 began with the news I'd been waiting for. A major water company wanted to license Aquapure for global distribution. This was it. This was the moment everything would pay off. Trevor called a meeting at his condo to celebrate. I showed up in my usual jeans and hoodie, the same clothes I wore in the lab. Trevor answered the door in designer everything, tailored pants, expensive watch, shoes that probably cost more than my rent. Come in. We need to talk about the licensing deal." I sat on his leather couch, feeling out of place in the space he'd built with money I still didn't fully understand. "The water company is offering $20 million for exclusive global rights," he said. $10 million up front, $10 million over 5 years based on production milestones. $20 million. My brain couldn't process the number. That's incredible, so we each get." "We need to talk about equity structure," Trevor interrupted. "The investors have been asking questions about ownership distribution." Something in his tone made my stomach drop. "What do you mean? We're 50-50. That's what we agreed." "Sage, I don't think you understand how this works. The company has taken on multiple rounds of investment. Equity has been diluted. It's not as simple as 50-50 anymore." "Then what is it?" "I'll have my lawyer send you the cap table. But right now, we need to focus on closing this deal. Once the money comes in, you'll see significant returns regardless of the exact equity split." I should have demanded to see the documents right then. I should have insisted on clarity before moving forward. But I was so tired. 6 years of exhaustion, of sacrifice, of trusting Trevor to handle the business while I handled the engineering. "Okay," I said quietly. "Just send me the details." He smiled. "I will. Don't worry, Sage. Everything's going to work out. We're about to change the world." I left his condo and drove back to my tiny apartment in my beat-up Honda Civic, past his Tesla in the parking garage. The cap table never arrived. But the doubt that had been whispering for years, finally started to speak loud enough that I couldn't ignore it anymore. Something was wrong. I just didn't know how wrong yet. The TechCrunch article came out on a Tuesday morning. I was in the lab running stress tests on Prototype 41 when my phone buzzed with a Google alert I'd set up for Aquapure. I clicked the link, expecting another industry news mention. Instead, I saw Trevor's face filling my screen. Trevor Hayes, the visionary bringing clean water to the world. I read the article standing at my workbench, my coffee going cold in my hand. It was a glowing profile, 3,000 words about Trevor's journey from MIT student to entrepreneur, his vision for solving the global water crisis, his tireless work developing revolutionary filtration technology, his sacrifice, his dedication, his genius. My name appeared once, in the 5th paragraph. Hayes credits his talented engineering team, led by Sage Morrison, with helping bring his vision to life. Engineering team, not co-inventor, not partner, team member who helped with his vision. I read that sentence 7 times, each time feeling something twist tighter in my chest. The article quoted technical specifications I'd spent years developing, but attributed them to Trevor's innovative thinking. It described the membrane technology using my exact words from Lab Notebook 12, presented as Trevor's explanation. There was a photo of him in our lab, holding one of my prototypes, smiling like a proud father. The caption, Hayes with his invention. I called him immediately. Did you see the TechCrunch piece? His voice was bright, excited. Great coverage, right? Trevor, they called it your invention. It's just journalism. They simplify things for general audiences. They quoted my technical specifications word for word, from my notebooks, and credited you. Sage, come on, you know how media works. They want a single narrative, a single hero. That's what sells. But it's not true. Silence on his end. Then, what do you want me to do? Call them and demand a correction? That'll just make us look disorganized, like we don't have our story straight. Our story should be the truth. The truth is that we're building something incredible together. Who cares what some tech blog says about who invented what? Once we launch and people are drinking clean water because of us, none of this will matter. I wanted to believe him. I wanted the knot in my stomach to untangle. But 3 days later, Forbes published a similar piece. Same narrative, Trevor as sole inventor, me as unnamed team member. Then Wired, then Fast Company. Each article used photos of Trevor in the lab, holding prototypes I'd built with my own hands. Each one described the technology using language from my notebooks. Each one presented Aquapure as Trevor Hayes' invention. I confronted him after the Forbes piece. You need to correct this. You need to tell them I'm the inventor. I mention you in every interview. As a team member, not as the person who actually created this. Sage, listen to yourself. You're being paranoid. Once we get the patent finalized and launch the product, your name will be on everything that matters. Legal documents, technical papers, all of it. These are just puff pieces for investors. Then why does it feel like you're erasing me? His expression hardened. Because you're insecure. You've always been insecure. You're brilliant in the lab, but you don't understand how business works. Right now, investors need a clear face, a single story. That's me. Once we're established, you can have all the credit you want. The way he said it made me feel small, unreasonable, like I was being difficult over nothing. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe this was how it worked. But that night, I couldn't sleep. I pulled up every article, every interview, every conference presentation listing. Trevor Hayes, founder and CEO. Trevor Hayes, inventor. Trevor Hayes, visionary. Never both of us, never Hayes and Morrison, never partnership. Just him. And somewhere in the back of my mind, a question formed that I couldn't shake. If Trevor was willing to erase me from the story, what else was he willing to erase me from? I pushed the thought away. But it was already too late. The doubt had taken root. The call came on a Friday afternoon in April. Sage, we need to talk. Can you come to my office? Trevor had rented actual office space 6 months earlier, A sleek suite in a Cambridge high-rise with a receptionist and everything. I'd been there twice. It always felt wrong seeing him in that environment, sitting behind a glass desk wearing expensive suits. I showed up in my lab clothes, jeans stained with polymer solution, hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. His assistant showed me in. Trevor was on the phone, motioning for me to sit. I sat in the uncomfortable modern chair across from his desk and waited. He finished his call, smiled at me, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Thanks for coming. How's the testing going on the latest batch?" "Fine. What did you need to talk about?" He stood, walked to the window overlooking the city, hands in his pockets, his back to me. "The investors and I have been having conversations about the company's direction, about scaling, about structure, about roles." My stomach tightened. "They have concerns about the engineering side. They think we need more experienced leadership. Someone with manufacturing background, someone who's brought products to market before." I've been working on manufacturing scalability for 2 years. The injection molding process I developed. "I know, and it's great work. Really. But Sage, you're a brilliant inventor. You're not a manufacturing executive." "I never said I wanted to be a manufacturing executive. I want to keep developing the technology." He turned to face me. "That's the thing. The technology is done. We're moving into production phase now. We need different skills." Something cold crept up my spine. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying the board thinks we need to bring in someone with more business experience to lead the technical team. Someone who can interface with manufacturers, manage timelines, handle the production ramp." "And what happens to me?" "You'd transition to an advisory role. Consultant. You could still be involved in product iterations, improvements, that kind of thing." Consultant. The word tasted like ash. "Trevor, I invented this, every single component, 6 years of my life. And you'll be compensated for that work." "I'm your partner, 50-50, that's what you said." He sat back down, his expression shifting into something harder. "Sage, I need you to be realistic. The company has evolved. We've taken on significant investment. There are shareholders now, a board of directors. It's not just you and me anymore." "Then show me the paperwork. Show me the equity structure." "I've been meaning to send that to you." "You've been meaning to for 3 years. Show me now." He opened a drawer, pulled out a folder, slid it across the desk. I opened it, read the first page, then the second. My hands started shaking. "This says I own 4%. Equity was diluted through funding rounds. That's how it works." "You told me we were partners. You told me 50-50. "In the beginning, yes, but we never formalized that in writing, and as the company grew." "Where's my employment contract? Where's the partnership agreement?" His silence was the answer. "There isn't one, is there? There never was. You were compensated through company equity. That's standard for startups. 4% isn't compensation for inventing the entire product." "Sage, you need to calm down." "Don't tell me to calm down. Where's the patent? Show me the patent filing." "That's proprietary company information." "I'm the inventor. I have a right to see it." He stood. "Actually, you don't. The patent was filed under company ownership. Any work you did was as a company employee." "I wasn't an employee. I was your partner." "Show me where that's documented." The room tilted. 6 years, 14,000 hours, every dollar I had, and I had nothing in writing. "Nothing." "You need to leave," Trevor said quietly. "Security will help you collect your personal items from the lab. Your access will be deactivated by end of day." "Trevor, please." "This meeting is over." I left his office in a daze, got in my car, drove to the lab. My keycard didn't work. Security was already there. a box of my notebooks and personal items waiting. 6 years of my life in a cardboard box. I sat in my car in the parking lot, staring at the building where I'd built the future, and realized I'd just lost everything. 3 months after Trevor fired me, I was living in my car. It happened faster than I thought possible. No income, no savings, no job prospects. I'd spent every dollar developing Aquapure. I had nothing left. My landlord gave me 2 weeks after I missed rent. I tried explaining, tried telling her I was between jobs, that money was coming, but she'd heard it all before. The eviction notice came on cheap white paper, impersonal and final. I packed what I could fit in my 2008 Honda Civic. Clothes, my personal lab notebooks, my laptop, a sleeping bag. Everything else went to the curb. The first night in the Walmart parking lot, I cried until I couldn't breathe. The second night, I just felt numb. By the third night, I'd developed a routine. Park in a different lot each night, Walmart, Target, 24-hour gym parking. Join the cheapest gym I could find for shower access. Use the library during the day for internet and bathrooms. Eat whatever was cheapest. Ramen, peanut butter sandwiches, day-old bakery items. I applied for engineering jobs, hundreds of them. The responses were all variations of the same question. Can you explain this 6-year gap in your resume? I was developing my own invention. Can you provide references from that work? Trevor had poisoned every well. Former colleagues wouldn't return my calls. Engineers who'd worked with me on Aquapure suddenly had nothing to say. The few who did respond mentioned they'd been told I was difficult to work with, unstable, let go for performance issues. My reputation was destroyed. Meanwhile, Trevor was everywhere. I'd see him on billboards driving past the highway. Aquapure, clean water for the world, invented by Trevor Hayes. His face, 20 feet tall, smiling down at traffic. I'd see him in magazines at the grocery store checkout. Forbes, Wired, Fast Company. Always the same story. Visionary entrepreneur, revolutionary inventor, changing the world. One night, parked behind a Target, I watched his TED Talk on my phone. 18 minutes of Trevor explaining his journey developing Aquapure. He used my exact words, my technical explanations, my breakthrough moments, all presented as his own insights. The audience gave him a standing ovation. I screamed in my car until my voice gave out. The lowest point came 4 months in. I'd been sleeping in my car behind a McDonald's when someone knocked on my window at 2 a.m. A police officer, flashlight in my face. "You can't sleep here." "I'm sorry, I'll move." "You need to leave the area. We've had complaints." I drove to another parking lot. An hour later, different officer, same conversation. By dawn, I'd been moved along 3 times. I was exhausted, hungry, and I had $14 in my bank account. I pulled into a rest stop and checked my phone. New email notification. Subject: Aquapure secures major licensing deal. My hands shook as I opened it. Press release from Trevor's PR team. Aquapure Solutions announced today a $20 million licensing agreement with Global Water Technologies for worldwide distribution of their revolutionary water filtration system, invented by CEO Trevor Hayes. $20 million. For my invention. While I was homeless, I sat there in my car, reading the press release over and over, and something inside me broke. Not the sad kind of broken, the angry kind. I opened my laptop and went to the USPTO website, the patent database. I'd been avoiding it, too scared to confirm what I already suspected. I typed in Aquapure water filtration. Patent 10,840,7,392. Advanced water filtration system. Filed March 15, 2019. Inventor, Trevor Hayes. Sole inventor. My name wasn't anywhere. Not co-inventor, not contributor, nowhere. I checked the filing date against my notebooks. March 2019 was when I'd asked Trevor about the provisional patent, when he'd said, "It's all taken care of." He hadn't filed my provisional. He'd waited for it to expire, then filed under his own name. He'd planned this from the beginning. I sat in that rest-stop parking lot as the sun came up, staring at the patent certificate on my screen. 6 years, 14,000 hours, $67,000, my entire life. Stolen. And I had nothing. No money for a lawyer, no resources to fight, no one who would believe me. Trevor had won. I closed my laptop and looked at myself in the rearview mirror. Unwashed hair, dark circles under my eyes, wearing the same clothes I'd worn for 3 days. This was rock bottom. But then I thought about my notebooks, 43 prototypes, 6 years of documentation, dated entries, signed pages, evidence. Trevor had the patent. But I had the truth. And somewhere in that rest-stop parking lot, watching the sunrise through my dirty windshield, I made a decision. I wasn't done fighting. Not yet. I spent my last $5,000 on a patent attorney consultation. The money came from selling everything I owned that had any value. My laptop went for $800. My old textbooks from MIT, $200. Jewelry my grandmother had given me, $1,200. Tools from the lab, $1,800. Everything else, clothes, kitchen stuff, whatever, went to a consignment shop for pocket change. It took me 3 weeks to scrape together $5,000. That bought me exactly 2 hours with Jonathan Reed, patent attorney. His office was in downtown Boston, the kind of building with marble floors and brass elevators. I showed up in the only clean outfit I had, carrying my lab notebooks in a backpack, feeling like an imposter. Reed was 50s, gray hair, expensive suit. He looked at me like I was wasting his time. "You have 2 hours. Let's make them count." I spread my notebooks across his conference table. 43 prototypes, 6 years of dated entries, technical drawings, test results, photographs, email printouts where I explained concepts to Trevor in simple terms because he didn't understand the engineering. Reed started reading, page after page, his expression unchanged. An hour passed in silence. Finally, he looked up. "This is compelling documentation." Hope flared in my chest. But Mr. Hayes filed first. Under patent law, that gives him presumptive rights. You'd need to prove fraud, and fraud cases are expensive. How expensive? $300,000 minimum. Maybe more if it goes to trial, and there's no guarantee you'd win. The hope died. I don't have 300,000. I don't have 3,000. Then I'm sorry, but I can't help you. There has to be something. Ms. Morrison, patent litigation requires significant resources. Without funding, you have no case, even if you have the truth on your side. I gathered my notebooks, stuffed them back in my backpack. My hands were shaking. Thank you for your time. That night I was back in my car, parked behind a grocery store, eating peanut butter from the jar with a plastic spoon. I'd failed. The truth didn't matter. Evidence didn't matter. All that mattered was money, and Trevor had all of it. My phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Sage Morrison. Yes. This is Dr. Helen Zhao, from MIT. Do you remember me? Remember her. She'd been my thesis advisor, the one professor who'd truly understood my work. Dr. Zhao, of course. How did you? I saw Trevor Hayes on TechCrunch yesterday. He was explaining the filtration membrane technology. My throat tightened. That's your work, Sage. I know because I supervised your thesis on polymer membrane development. Every word he said came from your research. He stole it. He patented it under his name, and I can't afford to fight him. Silence on the other end. Then, where are you right now? It's complicated. Are you safe? That question broke something in me. I'm living in my car, Dr. Zhao. I spent everything developing Aquapure. Trevor took it all. Give me your location. I'm coming to get you. 2 hours later, I was sitting in Dr. Zhao's home office, clean for the first time in weeks, drinking tea while she made phone calls. Marcus, Helen Zhao, I have a case you need to see. Patent theft, complete documentation. No, she can't afford representation. That's why I'm calling you. She hung up, turned to me. Marcus Chen runs an IP litigation firm. They specialize in cases like yours, inventors who can't afford to fight back. Pro bono work, contingency basis. Why would they do that? Because Marcus was screwed over by a business partner 20 years ago, lost everything. He made it his life's work to help people like you, people like him. The meeting was set for the next morning. Dr. Zhao let me sleep in her guest room. A real bed, clean sheets, a locked door. I cried myself to sleep, but this time it wasn't despair. It was the first fragile thread of hope I'd felt in months. The next morning, Marcus Chen sat across from me in his conference room, reading my notebooks. He was 45, sharp eyes, no-nonsense demeanor. After an hour, he looked up. This is one of the clearest cases of patent fraud I've ever seen. Your documentation is meticulous. Every prototype dated and signed. Emails showing you explaining technical concepts he clearly didn't understand. This is ironclad. Can you win? If your records are authentic, and they appear to be, yes. But it won't be easy. He'll fight dirty. He has money, PR people, investors backing him. Are you prepared for that? I thought about 6 years in the lab, 14,000 hours, living in my car, Trevor's face on billboards. I have nothing left to lose. Marcus smiled. It wasn't a kind smile. It was the smile of someone who'd been where I was and survived. Then let's destroy him. The lawsuit was filed on a Monday morning. Sage Morrison v. Trevor Hayes and Aquapure Solutions, Inc. Patent infringement, fraud, theft of intellectual property. Trevor's response came within 48 hours. Not from his lawyers, from his PR team. His statement was polished, sympathetic, devastatingly effective. I'm deeply saddened to learn that a former contractor is making these claims. Sage Morrison was a valued member of our early engineering team, and I'm grateful for her contributions. However, these allegations are baseless and appear to stem from personal and financial difficulties she's been experiencing. I hope she gets the help she needs. Personal and financial difficulties. Translation, she's unstable and broke. Then came the LinkedIn post. Facing a difficult situation today. Someone I once considered a friend is making false claims about work we did together years ago. It's hard not to take it personally. But I'm reminded that innovation always attracts detractors. Some people build. Others tear down. I choose to keep building. Grateful for everyone who believes in our mission to bring clean water to the world. The comments flooded in immediately. Stay strong, Trevor. Haters gonna hate. Don't let jealous people bring you down. 12,000 likes in 6 hours. Meanwhile, my name was being dragged through every tech forum and industry blog. Disgruntled ex-employee. Failed engineer trying to cash in. Obviously mentally unstable. Marcus warned me this would happen. He's going to make you the villain. He has the platform, the resources, the public image. You have the truth. Right now, that's not enough. We need to get to discovery. Discovery meant subpoenas, documents, emails, bank records, everything Trevor had been hiding. His lawyers fought us on every single request. Motion to dismiss. Denied. Motion to limit discovery scope. Denied. Motion after motion, trying to bury us in paperwork, drain our resources, make us give up. But Marcus didn't give up, and neither did I. The depositions started in month 3. I went first. 8 hours in a conference room with Trevor's attorney, David Sterling, 50-something, expensive suit, the kind of lawyer who specialized in destroying people. Ms. Morrison, you claim to have invented Aquapure, yet you have no patent in your name. Why is that? Because Trevor Hayes stole my invention and filed the patent under his name. That's a serious accusation. Do you have proof? 6 years of lab notebooks, documenting every stage of development. Couldn't you have created those notebooks after the fact, backdated them to support your claim? The entries are in different inks, different pens, showing natural progression. There are coffee stains, lab chemical marks, dated entries that reference specific events. But you could have fabricated all of that. I didn't. Ms. Morrison, isn't it true that you were terminated from Aquapure for performance issues? I was pushed out after 6 years of developing the technology because Trevor wanted sole credit. Or because you were difficult to work with. That's not. Isn't it true you've been homeless, living in your car? Marcus objected. Relevance. Sterling smiled. Goes to mental state and credibility. The deposition was brutal. 8 hours of my life being picked apart, my homelessness used as evidence of instability, my passion for my work twisted into obsession. I left shaking, certain we'd lost before we'd even started. Then came Trevor's deposition. He arrived in a designer suit, confident, smiling, treated the whole thing like an inconvenience he'd handle easily. Marcus started gentle, background questions, education, how Aquapure started. Trevor relaxed, told his version smoothly. He'd had the vision. He'd brought in engineering help. He'd filed the patent for the company. And Ms. Morrison's role. Valuable contractor, good engineer, but the core innovation was mine. Can you explain how the filtration membrane works? Of course. It uses polymer-based filtration to remove contaminants at the molecular level. What specific polymer? Trevor hesitated. That's proprietary. You invented it. Surely you know what it's made of. The exact formulation is, we use several polymers in combination. Name one. I'd have to check my notes. Mr. Hayes, you're listed as the sole inventor on the patent. You should be able to explain your own invention. Trevor's lawyer jumped in. My client isn't required to memorize every technical detail. But the crack had appeared. Marcus pressed harder. What's the optimal pore size for the membrane? That depends on the application. For freshwater filtration, the primary use case. I don't have those figures in front of me. What pressure threshold does the membrane operate at? Again, that's in the technical documentation. Which you wrote, as the inventor. Trevor's jaw tightened. I had engineering support for the technical specifications. Engineering support. I thought Ms. Morrison was just a contractor. She helped with some of the detailed technical work. How much of the detailed technical work? I don't recall exactly. The deposition went on for 6 more hours. Every technical question, Trevor deflected or couldn't answer. Everything he did know came directly from my notebooks. Same language, same explanations, word for word. We left with 40 pages of transcript showing the inventor couldn't explain his own invention. But the war was just beginning. Before I tell you what happened next, I need to ask, have you ever been called crazy for telling the truth? Have you ever watched someone steal your work and make themselves the hero? Comment truth if you've been gaslit like this, because what happened in that courtroom changed everything. The trial began 8 months after we filed the lawsuit. Federal Courthouse in Boston. Judge Martin Lee presiding, 64 years old, former patent examiner, 30 years on the bench. He'd seen every kind of IP case imaginable. Marcus had warned me. Everything depends on the evidence. Your notebooks, the emails, the timeline. If your documentation holds up, we win. If there's any doubt, any inconsistency, Trevor walks away with everything. No pressure. Trevor's legal team went first. 3 days of presenting their case. They showed the patent certificate. Patent 10,847,392, inventor Trevor Hayes. Filed properly, legally sound. They showed incorporation documents. Aquapure Solutions, Inc., founder and CEO, Trevor Hayes. They showed investor presentations, media coverage, conference appearances, all featuring Trevor as the inventor. They called witnesses, investors who'd met with Trevor, who'd watched him pitch the technology, a manufacturing consultant who'd worked with him on production scaling, his former MIT professors who testified he'd always been interested in water sustainability. Then they called a forensic document examiner. Dr. Richard Brennan, 62, certified handwriting analyst. He'd examined my lab notebooks. Dr. Brennan, in your professional opinion, is there any indication these notebooks were backdated or falsified? There are some irregularities. My stomach dropped. What kind of irregularities? Different pen types used on the same page, variations in handwriting pressure. Some entries appear to have been made at different times. Meaning? It's possible some entries were added after the fact to support Ms. Morrison's narrative. Marcus cross-examined hard. Dr. Brennan, isn't it normal for someone working over multiple sessions to use different pens? Yes. And wouldn't handwriting pressure vary based on fatigue, stress, time of day? That's possible. Did you find any evidence of actual forgery? Any chemical analysis showing entries were made years after the dates listed? No, but... No evidence of forgery, thank you. But the seed of doubt was planted. Trevor's team had done their job. Then it was our turn. Marcus started with the basics. 6 years of lab notebooks entered into evidence, 43 documented prototypes, 14,000 hours of work. Every single entry dated and signed. Coffee stains, chemical marks, wear patterns consistent with years of use. Pages that referenced specific events, conferences, equipment purchases, holidays, all verifiable through external records. Then the emails. Hundreds of them. Sage explaining technical concepts to Trevor in simple language. Trevor, the polymer cross-linking ratio needs to be adjusted. Current configuration is 3:1, but we're seeing membrane degradation after 72 hours. I'm going to try 4:1 and run a new stress test. Trevor's response. Sounds good. Let me know results. I have an investor call tomorrow. Can you send me a 1-pager explaining the membrane technology in layman's terms? Email after email showing the same pattern. Sage doing the technical work. Trevor asking for explanations he could use in presentations. Then the CAD files. Digital forensics expert testified. These files were created on Ms. Morrison's computer. The metadata shows creation dates spanning from 2016 to 2021. The files were never transferred from any other source. They originated on her machine. And the patent application Mr. Hayes filed contains identical technical drawings to Ms. Morrison's CAD files. Exact matches. The files were copied from her computer and submitted with the patent. Trevor's lawyer tried to object. Ms. Morrison could have given Mr. Hayes permission to use the files. Did she? The judge asked. Silence. Then came the engineer testimonies. 12 people who'd worked with both Sage and Trevor. All said the same thing. Sage designed everything. Trevor handled business. Trevor didn't understand the technical details. He'd always ask Sage to explain things before investor meetings. I worked directly with Sage on prototype development. Trevor was never in the lab. Then the bank records. Trevor had paid himself $180,000 annually in consulting fees from investor funds, money that was supposed to fund research and development. Meanwhile, Sage received zero. The luxury condo, the Tesla, the designer lifestyle, all funded by investor money while Sage depleted her savings. Then Marcus played the recording. The subpoenaed phone call between Trevor and his attorney from 3 years earlier. Trevor's voice filled the courtroom. She's brilliant but naive. She'll never think to check the patents until it's too late. Attorney, what if she finds out? Trevor, she has no money, no resources. By the time she figures it out, I'll own everything. She can't touch me. The jury shifted in their seats. Trevor's face went pale. The judge leaned forward. Marcus let the silence hang for a long moment. Then he said quietly, "The defense rests. We'd laid it all out. 6 years of documentation, digital forensics, 12 witnesses, a recorded confession. The truth, undeniable and complete. Now we waited to see if truth was enough." The technical questioning happened on day 12 of the trial. Judge Lee had been quiet through most of the proceedings, letting the lawyers present their cases. But I could tell he was paying attention to something specific, the technical details. After lunch recess, he made an announcement. "I have some questions for the parties. Mr. Hayes, please take the stand." Trevor's lawyer stood. "Your Honor, Mr. Hayes has already testified." "I'm aware. I have additional questions regarding the technical specifications of the patent. Mr. Hayes, you're still under oath." Trevor walked to the witness stand, still confident, still composed. He'd gotten through the depositions. He could handle this. Judge Lee opened the patent filing. "Mr. Hayes, you're listed as the sole inventor of this water filtration system. Correct?" "Yes, Your Honor." "Then you should be able to explain how it works. Can you describe the filtration membrane composition?" "Of course. It's a polymer-based membrane that filters contaminants at the molecular level." "What specific polymer?" Trevor hesitated. "We use a proprietary blend." "I'm not asking you to reveal trade secrets. I'm asking you to explain the basic material science behind your own invention. What type of polymer? Thermoplastic, thermosetting, cross-linked?" We use multiple polymers in combination." "Name one." "I'd need to reference the technical documentation." Judge Lee's expression didn't change, but something shifted in the courtroom air. "The documentation you wrote, as the inventor." "The detailed chemical formulations were developed with engineering support." "What's the optimal pore size for freshwater filtration?" Silence. "What pressure threshold does the membrane operate at?" "Your Honor, these are very specific technical details." "That you should know if you invented this system. What's the expected lifespan of the membrane under continuous use?" Trevor was sweating now. "Approximately 5 years, depending on water quality." "How did you arrive at that figure?" "Through extensive testing." "What kind of testing? Describe the methodology." "We ran the prototypes through various stress tests." "What constituted a stress test in your development process?" Trevor looked at his lawyer. No help coming. "We tested the membranes under different pressure levels and contaminant loads." "What contaminant loads specifically?" "I don't recall the exact." "Mr. Hayes, you invented this. You should recall." The judge turned to me. Ms. Morrison, same questions. What's the membrane composition? I didn't hesitate. Cross-linked polyethersulfone with embedded silver nanoparticles for antimicrobial properties. The cross-linking ratio is 4:1, which provides optimal balance between durability and filtration efficiency. Pore size: 0.01 microns for the primary filtration layer, 0.005 microns for the secondary bacterial barrier. Pressure threshold: operates optimally between 40 and 60 psi. Below 40, flow rate drops significantly. Above 60, you risk membrane rupture. Testing methodology for the 5-year lifespan claim. Accelerated degradation testing. We ran membranes at twice the normal pressure with contaminant loads 3 times higher than real-world conditions. After simulating 15 years of use, the membranes maintained 97% filtration efficiency. We conservatively rated them for 5 years. I kept going, explaining the material science, the engineering challenges, the breakthrough moments. I sketched diagrams on the courtroom whiteboard showing molecular structure, pressure differentials, flow dynamics. I spoke for 15 minutes without notes, without hesitation, because this was my work. My invention, my 6 years of life. The courtroom was silent when I finished. Judge Lee looked at Trevor. Mr. Hayes, do you have anything to add to Ms. Morrison's explanation of your invention? Trevor's jaw worked. The technical details were handled by the engineering team. You just testified under oath that you're the sole inventor. Which is it? I directed the overall vision and development. That's not what I asked. Trevor had no answer. The judge made a note. Continue with closing arguments. Marcus stood for our closing. Your Honor, members of the jury, this case is simple. Sage Morrison invented Aquapure. She has 6 years of documentation proving it. Trevor Hayes copied her work, filed a patent under his name, and systematically erased her from the story. You heard him on the stand. He can't explain his own invention. Because it's not his. It never was. Trevor's lawyer tried to recover in his closing. The patent was filed properly and legally. My client built a company, secured funding, brought a product to market. Ms. Morrison was a valued contributor, but... Judge Lee interrupted. Counsel, I've heard enough. The jury will deliberate. 3 days later, we gathered for the verdict. The jury foreman stood. In the matter of Morrison v. Hayes, we find in favor of the plaintiff on all counts. Patent fraud, theft of intellectual property, breach of fiduciary duty. We award damages in the amount of $4.2 million. Trevor's face went white. But the judge wasn't done. Mr. Hayes approached the bench. Trevor stood on shaking legs. I'm invalidating patent number 10,847,392. Sole inventorship is hereby awarded to Ms. Sage Morrison. You are ordered to publicly retract all claims of inventorship. You are barred from working in the water filtration industry. And I'm referring this case to the U.S. Attorney for potential criminal prosecution for fraud. Trevor tried to speak. Nothing came out. I sat there, Marcus beside me, and felt 6 years of weight lift. Justice. Finally. The judge's gavel fell, and the courtroom erupted. Press cameras flashed despite the bailiff's objections. Trevor's investors rushed out, already on their phones. Marcus was shaking my hand, saying something I couldn't hear over the ringing in my ears. I just sat there, staring at the patent invalidation order on the table in front of me. 6 years of my life, validated, proven, mine again. Trevor stood frozen at the defendant's table, his lawyer whispering urgently in his ear. For a moment, our eyes met across the courtroom. I waited for him to say something, anything. An apology, an excuse, even anger. He looked away. That's when I knew he'd never actually seen me as a partner. Maybe not even as a person, just a resource to be used and discarded when convenient. The realization didn't hurt anymore. It just was. Outside the courthouse, reporters mobbed us. "Ms. Morrison, how does it feel to win?" I looked at the cameras, at the microphones thrust in my face, and I thought about sleeping in my car. About the Walmart parking lots and the gym showers and the nights I cried until I couldn't breathe. "It feels like I can finally breathe," I said. That soundbite made every tech blog by evening. The aftermath moved fast. Trevor's investors filed lawsuits within days. Fraud, misrepresentation, breach of fiduciary duty. They wanted their money back, and they wanted blood. His assets were seized almost immediately. The Tesla, gone. The luxury condo, foreclosed. The designer wardrobe, office furniture, everything, liquidated to pay the judgment. He filed for bankruptcy within 6 months. The $4.2 million judgment. I'd never see all of it. He didn't have it. He'd spent investor money on a lifestyle he couldn't sustain, and now there was nothing left. But I got something more valuable than money. My name back. Patent 10,847,392 was reissued. Inventor, Sage Morrison. Just me, just the truth. Dr. Zhao helped me field the offers that came flooding in. 7 companies wanted to license the technology. Water NGOs, disaster relief organizations, even the Department of Defense. I chose Global Water Solutions. They had the infrastructure to manufacture at scale and the commitment to provide systems at cost to developing nations. The deal, $8 million upfront, 7% royalties on all sales. I sat in Dr. Zhao's office, staring at the contract, unable to process the number. "You did it," she said quietly. "You changed the world, and now everyone knows it was you." The first thing I did was donate $1 million to organizations helping homeless engineers and inventors. People like me who'd lost everything fighting for what was theirs. The second thing was buy a small house. Nothing fancy. Just a place with a door that locked, a bed that wasn't a car seat, a shower I didn't have to pay a gym membership to use. The third thing was set up a proper lab. Because I wasn't done inventing. 3 years after the trial, Aquapure systems were operating in 47 countries, providing clean water to 12 million people. Every single unit had a small plaque, invented by Sage Morrison. Mothers in Kenya were giving their children water that wouldn't kill them. Villages in Bangladesh had access to clean drinking water for the first time in generations. Refugee camps had filtration systems that could turn contaminated sources into safe water within minutes. My invention was saving lives. That was always what it was supposed to be about. The speaking invitation from MIT came during year 4. "We'd be honored to have you give the keynote address to our engineering graduates," the dean wrote. "Your story embodies everything we try to teach our students about persistence, integrity, and innovation." I almost said no. Going back to where it all started, to where I'd met Trevor, where we'd dreamed about changing the world together, felt too heavy. But Dr. Zhao convinced me. They need to hear it, not just the success story, the whole truth. So I stood on that stage, looking out at 800 graduating engineers, and I told them everything. The 6 years of work, the 14,000 hours, the $67,000 of savings I'd poured into an invention I believed in. The betrayal, the homelessness, the moment I discovered my invention had been stolen. The lab notebooks that saved me, the documentation that proved the truth. The fight, the doubt, the moments I wanted to give up. And the victory, not just in court, but in seeing my invention do what it was always meant to do, save lives. "I lost everything trusting the wrong person," I said, But I never lost my invention, because the truth is the work speaks for itself. The evidence doesn't lie. Trevor Hayes had money, connections, a PR machine. I had lab notebooks and the truth. And in the end, the truth was enough. The standing ovation lasted 5 minutes. Afterward, students lined up to talk to me. One young woman, maybe 22, stood nervously at the end of the line. "Ms. Morrison, I'm working on a renewable energy project with my lab partner. He's been taking credit for my ideas in front of our professor. After hearing your story, I'm going to start documenting everything. Thank you for showing me it matters." I gave her my email address. Document everything, date it, sign it, and never let anyone convince you that your work isn't yours. She walked away with her shoulders a little straighter. 5 years after the trial, Forbes put me on their cover. The woman who refused to be erased. The article detailed my invention, the theft, the legal battle, the vindication. But what I loved most was the sidebar. Where are they now? Trevor Hayes, no current employment listed. Last known residence, apartment in Worcester, Massachusetts. No social media presence. Wikipedia page consists of one paragraph about the patent fraud case. His legacy, destroyed. Sage Morrison, CEO of Morrison Water Technologies. 3 new patents in development. 12 million people using her inventions. Net worth, $47 million. My legacy, lives saved. I keep one thing from the old days in my office. Not the patent certificate, though that's framed on the wall. Not the Forbes cover, though that's there too. It's lab notebook number 7. The one with 300 pages of test results, failures, breakthroughs. The one with coffee stains and chemical burns and notes scribbled at 3 a.m. when I was too exhausted to write neatly. The one that proved I'd invented Aquapure. Sometimes I flip through it, reading my own handwriting from 6 years ago. The younger version of me who believed in partnership, who trusted too easily, who thought brilliant ideas were enough to change the world. She was naive, but she wasn't wrong about the important part. Brilliant ideas can change the world. You just have to fight like hell to protect them. Here's what I need you to understand. Have you ever been told you were nothing? That your work didn't matter? That you should just give up and move on? If this story taught you anything about persistence, about documentation, about standing up for yourself when everyone says you can't win, share it. Share it with someone who's being erased, someone who's fighting for what's theirs, someone who needs to know that truth and evidence and refusing to disappear can be enough. Because the world needs more people who won't be erased. Last week I got an email. No name, just a generic Gmail address. Subject line, "I'm sorry." I stared at it for a long time before opening it. Inside, 3 words. "You were right." No signature, but I knew who it was from. I read those 3 words over and over, waiting to feel something. Vindication, maybe, or satisfaction, or even anger. Instead, I felt nothing. Trevor had stolen 6 years of my life. He'd left me homeless. He'd tried to erase me from my own invention. And now, 5 years too late, he was sorry. I closed the email without responding. Some apologies don't deserve acknowledgement. Some betrayals can't be undone with words. But here's what I realized, sitting in my office overlooking the lab where I'm developing new technology. I don't need his apology. I don't need his acknowledgement. I don't need anything from him. Because I have what I always had. My work, my truth, my legacy. And nothing he took from me could erase that. I deleted the email. Turned back to my current project. A desalination system that could provide clean water to coastal communities for a fraction of current costs. Prototype number 8 was showing promise. I made a note in my lab notebook, dated it, signed it. Old habits. Good habits. My phone buzzed. Another company wanting to license my technology. Another community getting access to clean water. Another life potentially saved. This is what I was meant to do. Not fight in courtrooms. Not defend my own existence. Just invent, create, change the world. I answer the phone. This is Sage Morrison, inventor of Aquapure. How can I help you? The words still feel good to say. Inventor. Not partner, not team member, not contributor. Inventor. The patent says so. The evidence says so. The truth says so. And 12 million people drinking clean water because of my work. They say so too. I'm Sage Morrison. I'm 39 years old. I'm an engineer and inventor. I changed the world. And now everyone knows it. But sometimes, late at night when I'm alone in the lab, I wonder, if Trevor walked through that door right now, not to apologize, but to ask for help with a new idea, would I say yes? Would I give partnership another chance? Or have some betrayals, permanently closed doors that can never be reopened? I don't know the answer. And maybe that's okay. Maybe some questions don't need answers. Maybe it's enough to know that I survived. That I won. That my name is on the patent, on the products, on the lives saved. That I refuse to be erased. The lab is quiet. The prototype hums softly on the workbench. I pick up my pen and return to my notebook. There's still work to do. There's always work to do. And this time, I'm doing it for me. Just me. That's enough. More than enough.